Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to Best in the House podcast. Best of 2023 special. Hope all of you watching this show is having a happy new year. Our first clip up is the time we had Bob join us for our Super Bowl preview special.
We're being joined by the great Reverend Bob Levy. Bob, thank you so much for being with us today. You really are the prettiest girl at the dance. I know you're being pulled everywhere these days, so I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with us for a couple of minutes.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. Bo, when I think of sports, I think of Bobo. I swear to God, there's nobody that knows. He's at the games. He knows the games. He knows everything. Got to be here with you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Today, I happen to be out of Stevie Lou's place, and I found some stuff here. I found this white stuff here, and I found this. I think I might have to call. I might think I gotta call this. Maybe use some of this maybe make a call to JetBlue because I might need to book a little trip to the south.
Nice.
a little vacation in the south.
All right, that sounds about right. What are you thinking? Mexico with all that kind of money and the drug paraphernalia?
I might. I'm just gonna. I don't know, but I'm gonna use this for two place trip. The southeast, then hit it, then maybe take a little trip to Mexico.
There you go. Live it up, buddy. That's how you do it. That's how you
do it. Yep. On this little spare cash that was found here at Stevie's place.
Hey, if he left it laying around, it's basically yours. He doesn't really want it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why he leaves
that falls under the finder's keeper law of America, right there.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll just tell Stevie Lou, hey, thanks for the trip.
Exactly. And Bob, before we really get started too, I just want to say that you guys are killing it over there on the Shuli Network. Loving everything you guys are putting out. And how was DabbleCon last week? I know it was a little cold, but you guys looked like you were having a great time.
It really was a great time. It was just like everything went the way it was supposed to. The people that came were just great. The club owner was great. The people that worked there was great. It was just, we had so much fun. It was like a mini vacation to Alaska, it felt like, but it was still good. Even though it was that cold, we still had a lot of fun, and people came out to the coldest place you can basically be. So that means we're going to be doing stuff a lot of places, having fun.
No doubt about it. People have been, raving about that, especially on, the Dabblers Anonymous Reddit and everything, and all over Twitter. People are loving what you guys are doing, and me too. You killed it last night too by yourself for 2 hours with Out of the Coffin. That was hilarious.
Thank you.
I don't understand. Nobody else could sit, looking at a chat for 2 hours and make it, must-watch TV.
It's something I done that a while ago on Twitter when they had, Periscope used to be on there years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I used to just go on there by myself and just like whatever I wanted to talk about, I talk about, and then people add stuff and it just keeps going. It's just it's a fun way to do it. And then there's two Bobs there and I argue with myself. Now I brought that back. So, and I have other characters I will be bringing in probably next week.
Well, it's definitely always amazing. I love the arguments with Bob arguing with himself, and before we get started with the football too, I know you're a big Rangers fan. I was cracking up last week when you were saying that if you're rooting against me, then it's like rooting against the '94 Rangers, and that's 100% true, by the way, because you're both winners. And do you still follow the Rangers closely?
I do. probably like half the season I get back into it like fully. And like, at the beginning, you're like, yeah, whatever, it's like too busy. I'm doing stuff. But the playoffs, I try not to miss because I think it's the most exciting thing in sports, hockey playoffs. And you just get into it. You pick your team. I'll always want the Rangers to do good to win it. But like whatever series it is, I pick a team that I like. I like Edmonton. I always liked Edmonton when I was young. I always used to be a Minnesota North Star fan when I was growing up and playing hockey, and then they left. It sucks when your team leaves because then then it was like I like the Rangers. Started watching them in the '70s and late '70s and that '80s, and it's just fun. There are like great crowds in hockey, but there's nothing like the Garden, I think, when they're home and they're doing good because the fans come out then because they'll leave you. And the fans will leave you if you don't put out a good team. It's like Philadelphia. They suck, the Flyers. And you can get, tickets. You can get really close tickets for like $30 each now. It's horrible how they change the prices of the tickets depending on how good your team is. And it should be a set thing, basically.
Yep. That and the Ticketmaster fees.
Oh,
I cannot stand the Ticketmaster surcharges. The surcharges, venue fee, the purchase fee. I don't know. Performer fee, by FOFUM fee, and because we can fee.
Exactly. And the parking, you have to. It's like $20-something for. Like the Flyers and the basketball team. I can imagine the Eagles, like to watch a football, I'd rather be home watching it. Hockey's great to see. If if you want to get into hockey again, like if you look when you play hockey, you can watch it every second. And when you stop for a while, you're like kind of get away from it. But then when you go to a game again, you're hooked on it because it's amazing to see it. It doesn't look as easy as it does on TV when you're there. And they're a lot bigger than you would think that they are, which it's amazing to see and to hear the ice, like, when they're skating on it. It's just sick.
It's true. And when you're sitting right there, especially on the ice level, you don't realize how big that is. It seems small on your TV, but and when you see how big those guys are too and how fast they move, it's
yeah. I remember when the Islanders were big in like 80, 78, 79, 90, 79, 80, 81 or something like that. And I remember my friend had his father worked for a bank and he had really good tickets. And we were in like the second row next to the Islanders bench on the side. And you're walking down looking at the steps. I remember the first time I went there, you're walking down watching You Don't Fall, and you look up and they're huge. Like Gillies was huge. Even Nystrom, and all of them, Bossy. It was just amazing to see it that close. And it brings you in. Like football, like the weather sucks if you're outside, and you don't want to. It's just a pain in the ass. You love the games, even though I went to the Eagles Atlanta game when they won in the playoffs years back. And it was me and Joe Matarese when it was probably 0 degrees, standing on cement. And we were like the back of the front, we were the back of the first section all the way up, but we were on like cement and you could stand it and it just went through you. But it's exciting, but it's like to sit out there, it's like it's freezing.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. And it's not like a hockey game where at least you're inside and away from the elements and everything. But did you grow up as an Eagles fan?
No, I'm not really. I wouldn't say I'm an Eagles fan. Once again, I was a Baltimore Colts fan, and they left, so I lost that team. You just don't go with. So now you root for. You want Philly to win this, but when they lose, it's kind of funny because the fans here are so bad. I love to listen when they lose, and the sports shows out here, and the people are just like, "Oh, it's over. They suck," and then they win one game, and it's like, "Oh, it's going to be back. They're back," and it's just like back each week. You're just laughing at the way because the fans are crazy here, but I think they're going to win this game.
I have this weird tradition I do during the Super Bowl. after the Super Bowl, I'll try to listen to the police scanner of the city of the team that wins,
I love
just
that.
to hear what goes on while all this craziness, how they're handling it.
Oh yeah,
And
it's gonna be bad in Philly if they win. They're
I,
maniacs.
I remember a few things that happened that I was kind of joking about. I remember when one thing I had heard, they were apparently giving out free beer at the parade. I said, "Yeah, free beer. I don't. Yeah, like because that's a good idea." The other thing I saw, parties tweeted on their actual Twitter page. They said, "Free breakfast sandwiches on parade day, but the location needs to be still standing."
Well, that's what it is. People get carried away, especially when they win. And like there was some guy that they won the last game, and he was on one of the poles, and he got naked, and it was so cold. It didn't even look like he had a day, and he has to live like that. You know what I mean? With that picture.
It's the shrinkage. There was even a video I saw after the NFC Championship game that I saw. I guess some people were jumping up atop a bus shelter, and
Oh yeah.
the bus shelter collapsed. And I said, I hope you guys know that you're going. Not only are you going to be paying some expensive medical bills for that celebration, is going to be a little bit expensive because your medical bills. Hope you know your tax dollars are going to be paid to repair that bus shelter.
Yeah, or they're going to make them pay for it. You never know.
They should make them pay for it.
Yeah, because I remember
those things are expensive.
Yeah, years ago, if you were in a car accident, you hit a pole and you knocked a pole or broke a pole, one of the telephone poles, you had to pay for it. But that was years ago in New York and Staten Island. I remember that.
That makes sense too. You do some damage like that too. At least, it's coming out of your pocket. You'd be less, inclined to do stuff like that.
Exactly. That's what it is. You have to set examples. Otherwise, people just run amok. Yeah.
Yep. I imagine if they win the Super Bowl, I imagine insurance is going to go up through the roof on anyone who owns a car over there.
Well, that's what it is. I'm sure that, if I had a business, I probably wouldn't open that day, because this is going to be a big one. This would be a big one. They already got the first one a few years back, and that was pretty amazing. But this is a team that people actually said they're going to win the Super Bowl. And I was like, no way. And I didn't realize it until they started playing. The first game I was against Detroit, I was like, nah, this ain't going to happen because it was too close against Detroit. And then I'm like, okay, they got something here. They're really good. As long as their offensive line stays, tough and not get hurt, I think it's going to be I think they're going to pretty much have the game in control by the third quarter, but it might get a little close at the end, but it's not going to be one of those at the end games, I don't think.
Yeah, it's, the Eagles, I agree with you too. It really didn't seem like it was destined for the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year, but they just got better and better and better every week. I mean, when you look at the stats too, the stats don't lie. They had the second most sacks in the history of the NFL through the regular season, only to, I think, the 84 Bears.
Oh, wow.
And, when you're getting in that territory, the 80s Bears and everything, you're doing something right.
Oh, yeah. No, it's amazing. I did not want Kansas City. For some reason, I'm sick of them. To me, they're like the Golden State Warriors when they were in every year. It was just too much. It's like, I like when it's not like a team grows into like the Islanders back then or the Oilers. It wasn't all these, I'm picking up these guys like Golden State. And that's what I don't like about basketball. They just like people will take less money to go to a team to make it into the championship. It's not, you don't build a team anymore in certain sports, that's why I always hated Golden State. I just don't want them to win. And like Kansas City's a team that I'm tired of seeing them. Andy Reid is a good coach, horrible father, like I always say.
Yeah, I was laughing the other day when you said that if Patrick Mahomes loses the Super Bowl, he should get adopted by Andy Reid.
It would be brutal. I mean, he wouldn't last long. But I mean, look, he's doing good. I mean, it's a good team, but I don't think he's going to be able to. He'll only be able to throw one way, going to the right, but to the left, that he's not going to be able to even get around the corners. I think he's going to get hurt a little more, and it's going to stall him totally, and he's not coming out. So if they can get him limping, it's big trouble. You'll see right away. We'll see how he is, man. He could not feel anything. They're probably shooting his leg up with everything, so he doesn't feel anything. Got a whole year now.
Yeah, that's true.
I had a feeling that this game could go that way, with depending on Mahomes' health, and like what you guys said, if he's limping, it looks like it's much going to be a one-sided game.
Yeah, because they'll be running more, they'll be throwing shorter passes. He's not going to try to make those big plays going to the one side and then throwing it. It's not going to be able. He can't run, he really can't plant, and it's just going to be different. And even 2 turnovers by any team is gonna kill them, I think. But especially Kansas City, they basically can't make a mistake against the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. And with Patrick Mahomes, especially that offensive line is a little banged up. So you get guys like Hassan Reddick getting in that backfield, he's in trouble. And with the Eagles, you have Lane Johnson look like he's got a couple of weeks to get healthy now. So as long as they're able to protect that pocket and keep, Hurts straight up this game, then it really should be a slam dunk, the Eagles winning this thing.
Yeah, because basically you're looking at a 3rd down and 2 or 3 where a quarterback can just take off after, faking a pass or whatever. And I mean, can Kansas City do that now with him? I mean, it changes the game if he can't move. It really does. And the Eagles' defense is really good. And I mean, I think they're going to be sending them. I think that you're going to see a lot. They got to be all over him. And the Eagles always they'll go for it on 4th down a lot in a certain situation if they're close enough, even just close enough. If they're at the 40 of Kansas City, they'll probably go for it on 4th and 1 or 2. And because the chances are they're going to get it the way that they do it. Even if it's 1 yard, they just get behind him and fucking push him, and he just runs it up, the quarterback. It's just it just works.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And especially with a coach like Sirianni. What do you guys think of Nick Sirianni as a head coach? I know it's only his 2nd year, but man, he has taken this team to new heights this season.
Yeah, go ahead, Bobo.
I think the guy's he's probably done a wonderful job. I mean, he's doing what I hope maybe in 2 years. I hope the state he's brought my Giants to that. I hope my Giants go to that same state. What I'm hoping with the Brian Daboll, that's what I'm seeing here is an example of that. What I'm hoping my Giants will be in a year or 2.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he's playing. He's taking chances, and they really haven't backfired too much. So it's been happening, and when he calls these plays, and I'm looking. I'm telling you, I'm looking for. It's going to be right off the bat. If Philly gets the ball first, they are going to score. I think they will score at least a field goal.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that you just said there too, because I know you were talking about it on Kumia's show the other day with Gino, all the crazy props they've got going, but there were a couple that I did like. One of the ones that you mentioned was the 2-point conversion, and what do you? I think the odds that they're going to run a 2-point conversion at some point in this game are pretty high, right?
Yeah, I would say they're definitely going to be one. It's hard to call it, but it depends on, missing an extra point and all that, and then trying to get it. But I think and the extra point can actually take the team, make it a 2-score thing, and it's really hard to you got to once you see the game and you're like, okay, now I see it's going to happen. but there is so many weird picks. Like, I mean, a kickoff return is almost impossible to say because
Yeah,
most
these
of the
days,
time,
right?
yeah, and that sucks because that was an exciting time of the game when it's starting and the crowd is like, whoa, you hear that when they're going to kick it, but the excitement is gone now. You basically know it's going to go in the end zone.
Yeah, most kickoffs end up being touchbacks, and that's actually one of the other props that I was looking up. That if the first kickoff goes for a touchback, which is the odds are heavy favorite that's going to be a touchback because of the all the rule changes the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it just kills the game. It kills the game for me at the beginning of the game. It's just not the same. I think if you put them playing on regular grass in the regular weather, you can only go the speed you can go, and not as many people are getting hurt. You put them indoors, you put them on AstroTurf, it changes everything. The speed is football wasn't made to be played in perfect places.
Yeah, it's true. It's most of the time you get it looking like the mud ball back in the day, and or that 81 Jets Dolphins championship game where they completely had the entire field covered in mud. And
but it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. One other prop bet that I saw that I was laughing my ass off at was, and this is a real prop bet. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Will Andy Reid eat a cheeseburger before the end of the Super Bowl broadcast? The no is minus 2,500 and yes is plus 880.
My God. So they're going to follow him around and keep an eye on him?
Yeah, I guess they're going to have a camera on him at all times to see if he sneaks a cheeseburger in.
I guess they're gonna have a camera on that. If I'm correct, I'm pretty much sure you could even bet on the Super Bowl on the set list on a halftime show at this rate.
Yeah. And how long is that going to be? That's going to be at least 30 minutes, right? And
yeah, it's going to at least be 30 minutes. And by the way,
that.
if you're planning on watching the halftime show, do yourself a favor, go on YouTube, go on MLC podcast, check out Bob Levy, Kevin Brennan, Chad Zumach, because I know you guys are going to be having a much more entertaining show than whatever Rihanna's doing.
Yeah,
exactly. I also got to say I'm probably going to go to the bathroom during the halftime show. I actually said to anyone, if you're at the stadium, that's a perfect time to go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah, it's not going to be. I can see if it's the Who, if it's Paul McCartney, even the Foo Fighters would be great. Something.
Yeah. I would actually not go to the bathroom. I would literally put my phone on the shelf in the bathroom because I had the little app through the cable company so I could put the feed of the game.
Nice.
And just place it on the shelf and and take a look at the thing on the phone while I'm on the toilet.
He's got his halftime planned. I like that.
That's if it was an act I wanted to see. But in this case, it's not gonna be that. The phone will still be on the little thing there by the living room as I probably go to the bathroom and grab more food.
No, that's what it is. And the food, we're still trying to think what we're gonna do here. We might go to a seafood place, get some shrimp, get some other stuff, and then get I like the big sandwich ideas, when I get a big sandwich and just have fun with that.
Yep. You can't go wrong with the giant foot-long Italian hero.
No, you really can't. I mean, that's what the only difference is. You can't get the bread is softer here. I like when I lived in Staten Island, I used to love the hard seeded bread, and you get a good sandwich.
Yep, I know what you mean. Another thing I always have to say about the Super Bowl, our spread. My mom, every year, my mom makes she makes this chili, and it's always the thing with me that I can't have Super Bowl Sunday without eating my mother's chili. There was even one point I went to a Super Bowl party and I ate that chili for lunch before I left to head out to a Super Bowl party in Long Island once.
Yeah, no, that's good. How's your mom doing? She doing good?
She's doing good. She's pushing through all the little difficulties things she sometimes has to deal with as a result of some
Yeah,
some things that have been happening to her, but she's trying to pull through.
that's all you got to do. You push forward, you get to the
Yep.
end, you
Yep,
know.
I got to give a credit to my dog also for helping out my mom, because
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes my dog also helps my mother as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm moral support.
oh yeah, there's nothing like a pet, you know what I mean? That's what I lost 3 of them over 3 years, and now I got one left from the original pack, and it's the hardest thing when you lose them, but the time that you have with them is just incredible. So you try not to get too sad, but it's heartbreaking, you know.
Yep, and I know for sure my dog's probably gonna sit on the couch as he always does when has always let him do whenever somebody's sitting on the couch at my house. That's
Yeah.
like his cute. That's like his little signal that he takes a spot on the couch if someone's on it sitting on the couch.
Oh yeah.
He sits on
No,
his little. He goes to his little corner of the couch.
no, it's great. I mean, that's why I like Super Bowls. Like, I'd rather be watching it at home than because too much happens. Like even Super Bowl parties when you have a big one at your house or something or somebody's house. There's too much babbling going on. There's too many. It gets thrown off, and then like a lot of times women will walk in front of the TV and not, you know what I mean? Like they'll
Yeah,
start
exactly.
talking, and it's like you don't want
Especially
that.
with the women. You're right. You're right. That inane babble and all that stuff.
Yes, crazy. There was one time I went to a Super Bowl as you know, Kramer.
Yes.
I was at Super Bowl 46, Indianapolis.
Wow.
That was a fun one to be at. Also, I had to say it was warmer than expected when I was in Indianapolis. It was like in the 50s and stuff.
Right.
Like I was expecting because I know plenty of people from Indiana. I got some friends up there. I was expecting it to be cold and everything. Like I packed for winter weather, and it was in the 50s. Of course, the game that stadium was an indoor venue, but I was enjoying it being at that Super Bowl. Was definitely a fun time. And Bob, I'll tell you a little insight
Hmm.
that sometimes you don't little things you don't really know about when you're at the Super Bowl. As you know, when your team wins, you want to go to buy the merch. Of course, unfortunately, we don't have Models, so you kind of have to do that online now. We don't have Models anymore. But back then, we saw Models. But at first, I was thinking of maybe just texting my mom
Hmm.
and saying, "Hey, since they might sell out by the time I get back to Queens. You mind Shannon, my sister, stopping by Modell's to make sure to get the merch and then get the copy of the Daily News so I could frame the Daily News,
Yeah.
which she did because I knew the Daily News would sell out, so I had that to frame it. But I knew, well, I got word that the the shirts and the hats, the merch was going to be sold at the stadium as soon as they won it. So I bought the stuff as soon as they won, and I was able to buy the stuff at the stadium.
That's cool.
And of course the newspaper. Thanks to my mother, I got the newspaper on my way home. Also, I do have to give a little nod to give a little nod to my to good pal Eastside Dave on the way to the Super Bowl. As you know, Robert, we were listening to Eastside Dave's Super Bowl song in the plane as the plane's taxiing.
Mhm.
Me and a friend of mine, my friend who invited me to go with him on the trip, we were singing along to Eastside Dave's Super Bowl song, and a couple of people on the plane were dancing. Like they were loving it. They were digging it.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. People enjoy, you know what I mean? It's a good thing to get on a plane with people that are going somewhere. Like even with wrestling, I see when WrestleMania comes and you're at the airport going anywhere, you see people dressed up. They got belts and all that. It's like, it's going to be a party for them, and it's exciting. I wish the tickets were not, they were over probably about 4,800 for the cheapest ticket, and that didn't
Wow.
include anything for this Super Bowl. Like, you got the parking, you got what the food would be, because they just up all the prices. Like, and
Hmm.
that's what I don't like about when you watch like the Yankees or the Mets get into the, deep into the playoffs. You look in the behind home plate and you see like a woman with a fur coat and she's on her phone the whole time. You need your fans there, and not just people that have money. You need people that's going to, get the pop that you need when you're on the field. But it
Yep,
just
exactly.
laid back.
You need people like me.
Yeah. You see,
You're right. You're right.
People
Because
that
it
go,
makes a big difference.
yeah, the people that go during the season should get the first tickets. They should, because you want the fans there, and it's like it hurts you. It hurts you when your fans aren't. They're not loud. They're not like into a game like they should be. And when you watch it on TV, you're like, this is wrong. This is so wrong.
That's true. It's true, man. Well, Bob, we've taken up a lot of your time, but before we get out of here, I do want to give just a little prediction. What do you think the final score of the game is going to be?
I think it's gonna be 34 to 27. The Eagles.
20.
Yeah.
Okay. So easily covering the spread.
Well, I picked that they would cover the spread. They would the spread and the over, but like Garrett said, he goes, their averages are below the over. So it does seem like it probably could be under. So I mean, it's a tough one there, but the pick might be Philadelphia and the under. That might be the pick that wins people a lot of money.
All right, I definitely like that pick. And how about you, Dan?
I think it could go 27 6 Eagles.
Wow.
As
Wow,
much
you
as
said blowout.
as much as I cringe saying that the Eagles winning, but that's going to be that. I also predict that the Empire State Building Twitter account, if the Eagles win, they'll probably find a way to private their account, because if you remember after the NFC Championship game, I think every Giants fan on Twitter was outraged seeing a New York landmark lit up in the colors of a rival.
I can't believe they did that. That is crazy.
Yeah, it definitely took a lot of balls from the Empire State Building. And just to jump on with you guys, I think the Eagles are going to win too. But I'm thinking it's going to be 34-31. So I'm actually looking at the over.
Yeah,
so,
it's a tough one. It's right. It's going to be right around it. I mean, I picked probably over, but I have a feeling it might go under when Garrett said that this is their average. I mean, you got to put that in, because this is what they averaged the whole year. And a lot of people think, you don't know if Mahomes is really hurt. I mean, they may not score, that much. They may not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Bob. And hey, Bob, look, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. You really are the best. Everybody, make sure to follow Bob on Twitter at Levy Sir.
Yeah.
Check him out, on Levy Land, MLC Podcast, Miserable Men, The BS Show, Uncle Rico, everything on the Shuli Network. I really loved what you guys did with Jim Florentine yesterday, the Road Stories.
Yeah.
A lot of fun watching all that stuff. So please support Bob. And Bob, is there anything that you want to plug before you get out of here?
No, that's it. Just check us out on Super Bowl halftime show on MLC Podcast on YouTube, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a crazy day.
I might have to set that up on my phone during the halftime on the shelf in the bathroom during that.
Absolutely, it's the best thing about the YouTube app.
Yep, exactly. I'll take, and I'm using the shelf in the bathroom to my advantage, because it's right facing like in front of the toilet, the way my bathroom's set up.
Nice.
So. And we also got to say thanks to Stevie Lou for helping to do this little setup for today.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Thank you to the great Stevie Lou. Thank you to the great Bob Levy for joining us. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us, Bob.
You got it. Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.
Well, welcome back to Best Seat in the House podcast, Best of 2023 special. That clip was definitely a fun memory, reliving the time we had Bob Levy on our show. That man's one of the greatest guys I know, not only as a comedian, as a person, and it was a lot of fun for him to be the very first comedian we've ever had on our show. Our next clip stars another great person I've had the luck of being on shows and working with. I'm talking about the time we had Eastside Dave join us as a guest on my birthday.
Carlin, and of course, our special guest today, Eastside Dave McDonald. Dave, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Well, thank you, Rob, and thank you, Bo, Daniel Bobo Carlin, and Rob Kramer, greatest sports hosts in the land. I'm very excited to be here. Of course, I'm representing my show, the Dave Mac Sports Program. I hope we're at odds with each other.
No, this is definitely not a podcast war.
Okay, because if we are at odds with each other, Roy, Harder, my co-host, knows a few people who could have you guys killed.
Don't worry, there's no problems here. Me and Robert actually watch your show.
Oh, you actually do. So you two, you're our audience. I've been trying to find the pair of audience members that we've had for years. Okay.
Absolutely, man. And, obviously, me and Bo are both big-time Davidians. So, we definitely dedicate ourselves. And by the way, Dave, love the new Patreon. It's really awesome. I love all the, all the content coming out. I'm really pumped up about this new Sirius XM show that you've got coming out. And
that should be unveiled on patreon.com/Eastside. Promise before the end of April. And while we're certainly cutting close, I can officially announce that the first episode is in the can, and I am extremely hopeful that it will be released on Friday, April 28th.
Wow. Okay. So this Friday, everybody keep your eyes open for that. Yeah. That's going to be an awesome show. No doubt about it.
Basically, people have always been, I've gotten tons and just people throughout the year commenting or asking questions about my time either on Ron and Fez or Opie and crossover or Sam and Dave show or the DMC on Sirius. And so we decided, you know what, why not just do an actual retrospective show and have a lot of fun with it. It's going to be this first episode starts with the infamous storyline where it culminated smashing Fez's face into pizza. People were very upset, and it's going to be a 2-part episode, I believe. We go all the way up to the pizza getting smashed into Fez's face, and then we're going to have a second part. But the first part should be up on Friday, April 20th, patreon.com/Eastside Dave. We're very excited.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. And you were definitely quite the heel during that little storyline there. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I was considered a real piece of garbage.
I actually have a little story about Eastside Dave. The first time I ever saw Eastside Dave on stage in person. Way back when you guys were at 111 57th Street, I went to an Opie and Anthony taping, right? I'm sitting on. I knew about this segment before, but I never expected I would see this segment in person. It was back when you would show up literally nude with your hands covering your junk, and Opie and Anthony used to have to guess what you were hiding where the sun don't shine.
That's right. That's right. That was one of those little stunts that I participated in. And I did such a fantastic job. It was a game show that I really thought could be the next Wheel of Fortune, but apparently there were many FCC infractions, so I could never become the next Pat Sajak. That was my big dream.
I'll tell you this much: I always liked Wheel of Fortune, but I would definitely much rather watch that game.
Yeah, I mean that's a game. There's mystery. There's intrigue. I mean that's a game right there. What has Wheel of Fortune got? You get like a 3-day trip to the Bahamas, for crying out loud. No, come on. Nothing fun about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could see the show being aired on a TV in Donovan's pub and everybody in the bar playing along.
That's right.
Exactly. It's a perfect bar game.
They missed their opportunity. Well.
Exactly. Well, hey, we got a lot to get into, and I don't want to waste too much of your time, Dave. So we, right off the bat, we definitely differ on our teams here. I'm a Jets fan. Me and Bo are Mets fans. You guys are Giants fans. So, obviously, I picked a lot of shitty teams to root for. When it comes to basketball, though, we're all on the same page as the New York Knickerbockers advanced to the second round of the playoffs for just the second time in the last 20 years.
Hell yeah.
Bo, you guys must have been pumped watching that game last night. I know I was.
I was watching that game last night. I was going absolutely crazy. One of these days, I'm going to get probably addicted because of my passion for sports. I tend to be loud. There are lots of banging and just loud noises going on. The one thing I want to say is that I liked it when they called it the Eastern Conference semifinals, and that's what I'm saying that the Knicks are in, because now you have the play-in round, then you have this round. I don't know which is the first round, the second round. I do know back in the day they would call the round that the Knicks are now in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and I like it. It sounds way more important, It sounds like, okay, we've had a great season because who knows what's going to happen. But they're matched up against the Miami Heat. Wow. This is and the Knicks have home court advantage. This is going to be a tremendous series. We are seeing the blossoming of Mitchell Robinson as one of the best defensive centers in the league. We are seeing the blossoming of several of our young players like Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin. The Knicks, I've been saying all year long, have the most underrated in the NBA. One guy goes out. There's 6 young guys who can all play ball right underneath them. We haven't even seen Evan Fournier or Derrick Rose. They're not even getting any game time because all these young guys can play. So I'm extremely excited. This is the best Knicks team of the 21st century. Bam.
That I totally agree with you there. I totally agree with you. And, one of the things that I noticed about this Knicks team, too, is something that you mentioned, too, is that this bench has that next man up mentality. Doesn't matter who goes down. Doesn't matter what kind of lineup Thibodeau wants to run out there. And the Knicks are just deep enough to get it done, which I think really impacted that first-round series against Cleveland, because you could see when you trade for a superstar, the way that they did with Donovan Mitchell, and we were going to with Donovan Mitchell, you really hurt your bench and deplete your team a little bit, kind of like the Knicks did 10, 11 years ago with Carmelo, where
Exactly.
they gave up Timothy Mozgov, they gave up all those first-round picks, they gave up Felton, and they had no bench. So even though they had a couple of good teams when he was here, it just wasn't that deep.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's the first time the Knicks have won a playoff series in 10 years, and that team was all Carmelo. All Carmelo. And this team, you got incredible balance. You've got I still think Jalen Brunson is the single best point guard in the Eastern Conference. I've said it all year long. He's the best point guard in the East, period. Randall got that ankle sprain at the end of the first half, but I'm hopeful that a few days, maybe he doesn't even get the start on Sunday, and then maybe you give him a few days, and then he almost has a week to come back, and he gets game 2 start on Tuesday. But the team has depth, and anytime you can have a lot of depth in the NBA, listen, it's a great thing. Guys are struggling, just get a couple guys off the bench, go in there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Bo, you must have been pumped watching that too, as an early, little early birthday present, right?
Bo?
Oh yeah, that was an early birthday present. Let me tell you, when I watch games at home, especially when multiple teams that I'm a fan of are on at the same time, I do a multi-screen thing. Sometimes I even make use of my DVR because when the game's the next day. Well, I can tell you, I'm probably like Dave, make a lot of noise at home, and I feel like my dog feeds off that noise because when I'm making noise, he starts barking and howling. And this especially happened when the late Rosie Shea was alive. Today, by the way, would have been her birthday. By the way, I mentioned.
Happy birthday, Rosie
And
Shea.
Rosie,
Happy.
and Yep, and I got to say about Rosie Tate, she was a beagle, and if you're familiar with beagles, they have a loud bark, so you could imagine how loud she'd be when I was loud.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Waking up the neighbors over there in over there in Queens, no doubt about it, buddy. And
Oh.
so we saw, as Dave mentioned earlier, obviously we're matched up with the Heat the next round. They took down Giannis and those big bad Bucks, the number 1 seed. What do you guys think? If you had to make a prediction right now, what are we looking at in this series? Is it going to be a quick one, relatively, like this?
Knicks in
I
six.
think I
And that's
I have
that
a feeling.
for me, the Knicks
And
in
I
6
also-
is more about superstition because I said 6 with the Cleveland Cavs and Knicks won. So I'm just going to keep the superstition going. I also will only be wearing my Knicks t-shirt on every Davey Max Sports Program episode going forward until they are eliminated from the playoffs. And if that means I got to wear it through mid-June because they're in the NBA Finals, I will do just that, partner.
Hey, that sounds like a deal to me. I got my Knicks shirt on right now, too.
I also got to say, going into the series, there's going to be a bit of a rivalry because I have a cousin who lives and was born in South Florida, so there might be a bit of a heated rivalry during this series.
Oh, no question about it. The Knicks and Heat was a great rivalry going back to the 90s. Riley left as head coach of the Knicks and went to Miami. And then, of course, you had that great fight with Jeff Van Gundy hanging on to Alonzo Mourning's foot there. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing. Yeah, no, Knicks Heat back in the day was, a great rivalry. The Knicks 90s rivalries, Knicks Bulls, Knicks Pacers, probably Knicks Heat. Those were their 3 big rivals probably of that. So I'm excited. I really am.
Yeah, me too. And, just like you mentioned, too, that big, it brings back memories of those 90s rivalries. And they met every year in the playoffs from 97 to 2000 during that time. So obviously we had that chance to get that bad blood going. And the only time they've met in the playoffs since then was that round where Amare punched the fire extinguisher and messed his hand up, and they lost in 5.
That's right. That's right. Wow. Yes. Good call. Huh. Well, I'll tell you what, to me, the Knicks can do, I hate to say it, but I would bring a very similar philosophy with how they played against the Cavs, in that they clearly were able to focus on Donovan Mitchell, said, let's not let Donovan Mitchell beat us. To me, that guy on Miami is Jimmy Butler. You saw what he did last night. And this guy is a clutch player. This guy is a big-time postseason performer. Concentrate on Butler. Make sure Hart is guarding Butler. Give him some help. And then let's go out there and kick some Miami ass, despite who Bobo's cousin roots for.
Exactly, man. And you said it.
I also got a little thing to say, kind of sort of a reference to this rivalry. Back in the 90s, we all remember playing the video game NBA Jam, right?
Yes.
Of course.
That day, when I'd be playing against the Heat, they were always a tough opponent in that video game. There is actually a little strategy to beating the real tough opponents in NBA Jam. There was always that, similar to the double dribble cheat, you had that one spot that was always guaranteed 3-pointers. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Of course.
I love double dribble.
Yeah,
that was a great double dribble, a phenomenal basketball game.
Yeah,
Absolutely was.
But apparently I discovered back in the 90s when I was maybe in middle school, that little spot where you could get guaranteed 3-pointers, you leaned heavily on that when playing against the Heat.
All right, fair
Yeah, the Heat were definitely a dangerous team back then, definitely a dangerous team now. I mean, Dave, you mentioned it, that Jimmy Butler game last night against the Bucks, he single-handedly took them down and was talking shit the whole time too. That's
what he does too. That is what he does. He is a competitor to the max, And I think the Knicks have a bunch of high competitive guys themselves, so they just got to really focus on limiting Jimmy Butler, and then I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I think this is that this was the best Knicks team of the 21st century. I totally agree. And you know what? I think one of the big reasons for that is because it's probably the best defensive Knicks team they've had since the 90s. This team really, really locks down players. They did a great job with Donovan Mitchell in that first round. And, I think a lot of that credit should go to Tom Thibodeau, a guy who a lot of Knicks fans wanted to run out of town a couple of months ago.
I know. Tibbs has done the job. The acquisition part was huge. It was like he instantly improved the entire Knicks defense. Just that one player was such an upgrade. And I agree. I think the Knicks are right now gelling in all the right spots.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely going to be a fun second round series that's going to be getting started next week. So
And hopefully we can see Jimmy Buffett at courtside. I remember that one time where Jimmy Buffett got kicked out at a Miami Heat game because he was angry at the officials.
Really?
And, which is similar because I was kicked out of Margaritaville this past Fez time, but that had nothing to do with officials and more like growing up near table 7. So.
Oh, that's understandable though, especially that's if any night called for it, it was that night.
Yeah.
But let's keep it moving here as we got the as yesterday. I wanted to get your take on this, Dave, too, because as a Giants fan, I feel like you'd have an unbiased opinion. So the Jets finally finalized this Aaron Rodgers trade, which we've been hearing about for weeks and months at this point. What's your take on this Aaron Rodgers deal? Who won the trade? And do you think that the Jets have a legitimate shot to, at least get a home playoff game this year?
Okay, so I am a football Giants, but listen, this is obviously a massive, massive deal by the Jets. And here's the thing. Let's say they get to keep Rodgers for 3 years. Okay, they got to win the Super Bowl. So they got 3 years to win 1 Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Because I am going to compare this trade to when the Dallas Cowboys sent Herschel Walker to the Minnesota Vikings. I know a running back is a much different player than a QB. I understand. I just want to make the comparison of superstar player with draft capital. When you go out and just mortgage the next 3 years of your draft, that's fine as long as Rodgers gets you that championship. If Aaron Rodgers does not get you that championship, your franchise will be in dark times for a decade. That's just going to happen. Now, Rodgers plays 3 years, gets a couple Super Bowl or just gets a couple of playoff appearances, but wins that Super Bowl, then that's fine. You don't care if you go into you have 5 or 6 shitty years. He finally got you that Super Bowl. So everything is contingent on whether Rodgers delivers that ring. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that definitely makes total sense. I as a Jets fan, I feel the same way. If you're pushing all in, if you're pushing all your chips in, you want that payoff. I don't think that the Rams fans are too upset right now what they gave up for Matthew Stafford because they got that Super Bowl. And even
right.
I'm sure that the Buccaneers, they didn't have to give up anything to get Brady, but I'm sure that they hamstrung themselves a little bit for the next couple of years. Well, they don't mind because they got that Super Bowl. I feel the same way. If the Jets, get that Super Bowl, I don't care what they gave up.
Yeah, it's they got to win that Super Bowl though. I'll bring something up. I have a coworker at my radio station, WR18 95.9 FM, where I dominate weekdays. I'm the #1 host at the Jersey Shore. And this person at my radio station was a Jets fan. I said, so how far is it, will it be acceptable for Aaron Rodgers to take the Jets for this trade to be acceptable as well? And he said, championship game. He said AFC championship game. I go, Mark Sanchez got you to an AFC championship game twice, in fact.
It's a good point.
I don't think if you're a Jets fan, it can be acceptable to give all of those draft picks away for an AFC championship game appearance. That's what this Jets fan was telling me. I'm like, to me, it's got to be Super Bowl or bust.
Well,
No.
what I've learned about my fellow Jet fan through this whole process, though, is that a lot of Jet fans are just damaged people that don't think they're ever going to win. You know what I mean? Like, they know, or they just expect the worst. And the idea of losing in a championship game after the last 10 years that we've been through, I think they still think is a great thing. But it's like, guys, you have Aaron Rodgers. We can actually do this. But I don't
have
think
to think
it's in
bigger.
their head.
You have to think bigger now. You have to. With that defense and with Rodgers, you got to think we must win the Super Bowl. I know it's a lot of pressure, but otherwise, I don't know if giving up 3 draft picks was the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, you have to win a Super Bowl. What do you think, Bo? Did they give up too much? Do they have a chance to win a Super Bowl, in your opinion?
I feel they have to, and they should win a Super Bowl within the 3 years of that contract. Without a doubt, they give up that much. I really cannot see them not winning a Super Bowl in these 3 years. I'd be shocked. As a matter of fact, if they don't win a Super Bowl in these 3 years, I think your girlfriend might have to have you on suicide watch.
I think she probably already has me on that because.
Oh, gee. All right. Wow. Now the stakes are really high here.
That escalated quickly. That definitely did.
All right. Fantastic.
Well, with all the teams I root for, I think she pretty much expects that's going to be the final outcome anyway.
Yeah, I will forever associate with one of the funniest episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
What?
I don't know
Which
if you
one?
remember the episode. Remember the episode where Larry David was trying to get with the widow of a friend of his that killed himself.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was good.
And remember the episode was full of Jets references. Even the guy that was trying to trash Larry's car. Once he realized Larry was a Jets fan, the guy backed away, and his complaints sounded like every complaint I've heard from Jets fans. That mugger.
Yeah, well, us Jet fans have definitely been through a lot. So I think, and Larry David being a Jet fan, I think he knows, just as well at the toll it takes on you rooting for this team.
Good point.
But so just to keep things rolling, now we got the NFL draft tonight. That's why it really was great the way everything worked out. Getting you on today, Dave, because it's so many different things to talk about. With the draft, obviously the Jets moved back a couple of spots for the first time in it seems like years. The Jets and the Giants aren't in the top 5. So, what do you think? Are you really focused in on who the Giants could be looking at 25, or are you just kind of more just let the Giants front office take care of it and they're going to get the best guy available?
I don't get crazy excited for the draft. I will be paying attention to it with Nick's on tonight. But the reason why, what have we seen? We've seen countless busts throughout the years. Then we've seen guys like Tom Brady, or last year, the very last guy in the draft was arguably the rookie of the year, Brock Purdy, before he got hurt. The very last guy. So my point, they miss a lot on the draft. I understand. Fans are going to be excited. They want to see their new players and this and that. But I want to see the guys perform on the field when it matters. I'm not so much into a guy getting a little baseball cap and, posing with, Goodell. But I think that the Giants need some playmakers for Daniel Jones. And I'm sure that they'll try to give him a little help on the offensive line. But let's be honest. The Giants' Achilles heel was their receivers. They had no receiving crew. I mean, that was one of the worst receiving crews that I've seen in a while. And they still made the playoffs and won a playoff game. I'm hoping the Giants can figure that out, whether it's free agency or the draft tonight. Get me somebody who's fast. That's all. Somebody who's fast.
Yeah, you know what you're saying there makes a lot of sense to me because the Giants were relying at the end of the year on like practice squad guys, and even though a lot of them performed pretty well, you definitely want to upgrade that receiver room. I keep hearing that the Giants are looking at offensive linemen. I hear they're eyeing a couple of centers that is supposed to be in that range. And
they're always into the offensive linemen, and that's fine, but I feel like, and maybe Bo would know, I just feel like the last 10, 15 years, anytime they draft an offensive lineman, I don't know. I feel like they haven't had a lot of success with drafting offensive linemen. Rather, they've had a little bit of success in acquiring free agent offensive linemen, guys who are veterans. And it's tough to know how someone's going to be an offensive line in the pros. It really is. I mean, that might be one of the dicier positions to actually, draft. Because you think about it, these college guys, they're just going against, they might be 300 pounds. They're going against defensive linemen who might be 250, 260 pounds. In the NFL, they're all 300, 330 pounders on the defensive line. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And in college too, you never know the level of competition the guy's going up against. So it's definitely a hit or miss process with these offensive linemen, especially anything really out of the top 10, top 15.
Get the offensive linemen through free agency, and get these fast guys from Alabama who can run past people the way I could run past Bobo in a 50-yard dash and just leave him in the dust. I'd make Bobo look like a statue if we ever got into a head-to-head race. He'd be sitting there with his dumb hat and his dumb glasses, wondering where the hell did Dave Man go? Well, I'll tell you where Dave Man went. He just ran away from you and won the goddamn race, while you're sitting there counting the blades of grass on the goddamn lawn. I just ran across the finish line. I have a 4.140. And I don't know too many guys in the combine who can run a 4.140. Davey Mack can. I'm probably the fastest radio guy out there. And I'd leave Bobo standing there like a stupid, dumb statue. That's the type of receiver I need. Somebody fast from Alabama, LSU. Give me somebody from Ohio State. Some fucking fast guy who's going to run past everybody, catch the goddamn football, get me 6 points, and let's win the Super Bowl. Forget about Aaron Rodgers.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, 4.1, the Giants should think about drafting you.
Yeah, I run a 4.140.
Holy shit.
I know. I tell people that all the time. No one believes me. But you listen, anytime anyone, if they want to send ABC Wide World of Sports over to my house to prove it, by all means.
Bo, I'm officially gonna license you as a the Wide World of Sports camera crew. So get over there, and I want to see this race between you two. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, I absolutely will race him. We're gonna race in the middle of the road, by the way, right on the Garden State Parkway, Bo. I'll even give you a head start, Bo. Just get out into the left lane of the Garden State Parkway and just start running. And I'll be on the sidelines watching you, just giving you a head start, okay?
Bo?
It looks like I'm gonna have to start taking some marathon training advice from a relative that, by the way, ran in several marathons and triathlons all over the world.
That's right. And you also should start training at avoiding cars, avoiding getting hit by a car, because we're having this race on the Garden State Parkway.
Well, I guess maybe I'm gonna have to maybe do my training in Queens Boulevard, one of the
Yeah.
most dangerous streets to cross in America.
I understand. The Parkway, it's 65 miles an hour, so the cars are going to be coming fast. This is going to be a difficult race we're going to be engaged in.
It's going to be one tough game of Frogger.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly. I always tell people that that Frogger was invented by a random developer that tried crossing Board of Death is what those locals call Queens Boulevard. After I say they got the idiot Frogger.
I used to live on Queens Boulevard back in the day.
Really?
You know that? Yeah. Queens Boulevard, and I think my cross street is there a 46th Street, Bo, in Queens Boulevard? Does that address make sense?
I think there's a section of it. I know it's a huge stretch of road, Queens Boulevard. So
yeah, I was right in the 40s in Queens Boulevard.
Wow, very
yep,
cool.
I might try that. I might even try looking for the sections of the boulevard that still don't have that fence on the areas that are not in the intersection.
There you go. That's it, Bo.
All right. And just to keep it rolling along here, I just want to touch real quick on because I know, we're all big baseball fans, but really baseball, it's kind of like the second story going on here right now. But
yeah.
Mets and the Yankees, the Yankees got back on track yesterday, big 12-6 win, against the Twins. The Mets dropped 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. Dave, what's your early season impressions with the Yankees going on so far?
The Yankees need to get rid of Aaron Hicks. It's not that he's a scapegoat, but the team, except for that 12-run outburst yesterday, the team really hasn't hit that well. And I sometimes think just guys of the past who really haven't done anything, and they've failed time and time again, the way Hicks has these last 2 or 3 years. It just sometimes it really is addition by subtraction. You have to get him off the team. He can't play defense anymore. At least when Aaron Hicks wasn't hitting in 2017 and 18, the guy could sometimes be a dynamic center fielder defensively. He can't run. He's a guy who got old quick. It happens sometimes. Sometimes guys can play 39, 40 years old, and they're still productive. And then sometimes because guys had a lot of serious injuries, they get old quick. He's an old 33 or 34. However old Hicks is, he's an old version of that. As far as one thing that I liked, which was after the 2 games ago, Aaron Boone said, look, we're waiting too long to get engaged in these games. He's like, we got to jump on people and start hitting right away. And I thought that was cool that Judge sort of told them, hey, come to the plate, start hitting the ball. And the very next game, they got 12 runs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not an anti-Boone guy, but I am an anti-Cashman guy. I think our general manager, I still think he does a lot of questionable things. I think Hicks needs to go. I think Donaldson needs to go. And I think that, the Yankees will be okay. Bring up Dominguez by the All-Star break, and the Yankees will be fine. But right now I'm seeing too many veterans who they don't mean anything. Aaron Hicks is not going to be a player. The Yankees are young now, combined with the right veterans. So Aaron Hicks is not going to be an important part of the team 3 years from now. But Oswaldo Peraza and Cabrera and Volpe and all these guys, they are going to be a part of the future. Have them play with Judge, Rizzo, and Stanton, the right mix of veterans and the young guys, and then get rid of the older vets who don't mean anything, like a Hicks and Donaldson.
Yeah, it almost seems un-Yankees-like, in my opinion, to still have those guys hanging out on the team. I grew up, obviously, in being a Mets fan and watching the Yankees from afar, just seeing that anytime the Yankees made a mistake bringing a guy in, whether it was a guy like Kevin Brown or Keiagawa or whichever or Carl Pavano, the Yankees were able to just eat that money and say, get the hell off the team, you stink, we don't want you anywhere near here. Where the Mets, if they gave out a bad contract, they would kind of eat it and they'd shove that guy out there no matter what just to get the bang for their buck. But it's kind of surprising to me that the Yankees haven't gotten rid of guys like Donaldson and Hicks yet, because all it would be is just admitting the mistake on the contract, eating that money, and getting him out of town. So it's just kind of surprising.
Well, because Cashman can't admit when he's wrong. He's got that weakness in him. And I don't know why Cashman thought, before the season, he was almost guaranteeing rebound seasons from Hicks and Donaldson. And it's like, why? What about Aaron Hicks in the last 3 years is he all of a sudden going to turn around and in the year 2023 have a good season? It didn't make any sense. And so I think Cashman has a pride issue. And I think he used to be a lot quicker because probably George was the one who was impatient, and Hal not quite as impatient. And sometimes you question if he has the same fire that the old man used to have.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, because it seems like Hal doesn't exactly have his foot on the gas the way that George did.
No, yeah. See, I feel like Brian Cashman runs the Yankees more than Hal Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
You know?
It's almost like, how now everybody complained about Dolan being involved with the Knicks, and it seems like he's kind of stepped back and just let Leon Rose do his thing. It seems like that's really what Hal is doing with the Yankees, where he's just letting Cashman be the main decision maker, and anytime he's just got to get backed up with money, like with that big Judge deal, Steinbrenner's there to make sure he has that cash.
And I mean, Cashman now, the Yankees haven't won since 2009. So they are on a 14-year streak. And I know other fans of other organizations would be like, oh, cry me a river. You guys haven't won in 14 years. Our organization hasn't won in 50 years or something, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, understood. When you're a Yankees fan, though, you do have different expectations.
Yep.
The Yankees haven't gotten to 27 championships by being okay with winning every 14 or 15 years. They would have never gotten to that many championships. The expectations simply became greater for the Yankees. And 14 years between championships is way too long. That is an issue, and it's all happened under Brian Cashman. So we are getting impatient now.
Yeah, and understandably so. The Yankees have a different level of excellence and expectations, as they should. I mean, you point it out all the time. So how many championships do the Yankees have, Dave?
27.
And Bo, how many championships do the Mets have?
2. And we haven't won since the administration.
What? 2. 2 championships. That's so cute. I think I could have 2 championships in baseball. Give me 2 seasons and I'll get 2. 2. 27 to 2. Think about that.
I mean, it
really
really lets you know.
Isn't it silly though, Bo?
Yeah, it is silly. I do laugh at the end, but at the same time, I feel like this year I've noticed that the pitch clock rules have affected the game greatly. Some even negative effects. I noticed that this year, I feel like the pitchers that work quick have the advantage. I know right now, early on, hitters seem like maybe their timing's a little bit off with the pitch clock, but I feel the hitters are going to be adjusting a lot quicker. And I feel like the Mets, what they need to do at the trading deadline, assuming they're still in contention at the trading deadline, they need to look at the Pacific pitchers, starters, and relievers. They need to look at is pitchers that work quick. Because I feel pitchers that are able to work quick have a great advantage with this pitch clock rule.
Okay, hey, that's a good point. That's an interesting point. I know that Garrett Cole, I feel like he's been helped out by the pitch clock tremendously because I think Cole is just one of those guys who's very cerebral, but when he's out there on the mound, he can almost be overthinking what he's doing out there. And with this pitch clock, he's just getting the ball and throwing, and not thinking. And I feel like it's very much helped out Garrett Cole. So I love it. I think the cutting down a half an hour on the game is, unbelievable, you know?
Yeah, it really is. And the game has such a better flow to it now. You know,
Yeah.
Like I remember we used to call Steve Traxel when he was a Met the human rain delay because
That
he would,
was the worst.
that guy would just
Just
stomp
brought him
around.
up. I brought him up on the Daily Match Sports program. They timed him once, and he was like 48 seconds between pitches. And it's like, oh, my God. Like a regular 9-inning game, no extra innings, no nothing, could be 4.5 hours long when Steve Traxel was on the mound. It was that awful.
You're right. And luckily, a couple of the older guys probably aren't a fan of it. It looked to me like Carlos Carrasco was really negatively affected by it. But hey, you have to just get used to it. Once these guys figure out exactly the way to time it out and get in the flow of the game, then it's not going to be an issue.
Get the ball and throw it in. That's all. It's supposed to be like the Bugs Bunny cartoon where he just gets the ball and throws it right back in. That is the way baseball's supposed to be played. And I am enjoying baseball a lot this year, though. I think the new rules have all been great. I just want one more rule, which is the K zone. I want that to be the official arbiter of balls and strikes. Because these new rules are great. The product is great. But yet you still watch 20 missed calls per game.
Yeah,
And it doesn't make sense. They have the K zone during live games. Just have that be the striker ball call. It's nice and simple.
Yeah, you're right. You see even on Twitter, they have an account on there called Umpire Auditor. And it's a really great account because it shows you just how often these umpires make terrible calls. I mean, you'll see frequently guys calling balls 2.5, 3 inches outside of the strike zone. And sometimes
let's be honest, being an umpire has always been challenging. But with how great pitching is at a premium right now. You used to have one, at most, maybe 2 guys who could come out of the bullpen or something and throw 100 miles an hour. Now every team's got 8 guys who can do that. They got a couple starters who can throw 100 miles an hour. They got 5 or 6 guys out of the pen who can throw it. It was always difficult to umpire balls and strikes. It's much harder now. Quite frankly, it's too hard. It's too difficult. And under my plan, the umpires union shouldn't have any issue with this because I would add jobs. I would add another umpire in the booth, okay, relaying whether it's a ball and strike. He says it into a microphone. The home plate umpire's got a little earpiece. He says ball, the home plate umpire goes ball, or he says strike, the home plate umpire goes strike. Because the fans in the stadium still need to know whether it's a ball or strike, the pitcher, the players. So you still have the home plate umpire doing it. And you rotate each guy the way they always do. So one day the guy on the he's up there, he's what we call the booth umpire. Then the next game he's the first base umpire, and the first base umpire is the one going up to the booth. And I think you would have to then add a job to each umpiring crew. And so people are like, well, the umpires union's going to have an issue with that. Why? We should add jobs and relieve stress. They shouldn't have to do this anymore. It's too difficult. Batting averages have plummeted 30 points over the last 5 years. So A 25 or 28-year-old guy who is trained to see these pitches, they're having a harder time. How's some 60-year-old fatso going to be able to see these pitches? Come on, man.
No, you're 100% right. I love that idea too. And, with all the technology that's available now, they have to utilize it like that. I mean, it just makes sense.
It's the last thing they need to do to make baseball a really cool, modern-day, fast-moving product. Think of it like this. How many kids have been playing these MLB video games for years and years and years? They're used to seeing the K-zone. They're used to having strikes and balls called by the K-zone.
Yeah.
So just go with it already. The K-zone, people are used to it. We don't need goddamn Kent Hirschbeck making 48 bad calls during a 2.5-hour game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely it makes total sense that they definitely have to figure that out. I mean, it's right in front of them right now, and I think
right in front of them.
Yeah.
It's like, do you want a fancy computer that could be used in NASA making these calls, or do you want someone like Bobo making these calls? With all due respect, who's out to lunch. I think most people want the NASA computer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Where there's everybody accepts that K zone as
right
fact now, so you might as well just make it that way.
Right. And the biggest mistake they ever made was putting the K zone graphic on television during live action, like not just during replays, but like while the game is being played. That was the stupidest thing they could ever do, because now you see how many calls they miss. So I've been saying for years, if they don't want to do the umpiring thing, which I think they should do, then just get rid of the K zone on TV. It's hurting you guys. It's making your entire product look stupid. Either or. Get rid of the K zone, although that's not really fixing it. The issue is, get these umpires making forget about it. It's too hard. Garrett Cole throws the ball 100 miles an hour. The next pitch is a knuckle curve that goes 78 miles an hour and drops like straight down. How are these umps going to know if something is a ball or a strike? Come on.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Couldn't agree more. And so just to keep it moving, because we're coming to the end here. We've already kept you for way too long, Dave. I don't want to waste your time as it is.
You kept me way too long today.
I just want to get your opinion. We got Rangers Devils game 5 tonight in Jersey. Series.
Well, Bobo and I have made a bet. I don't know if you're aware of.
I am.
But if the Rangers win this, I'm a Devils fan. Bobo's a Rangers fan, and I believe that if the Rangers win the series, Bobo gets to attempt to saw my head off live on the Davey Mack Sports program, like one of those old school beheading videos. If the Devils win, I get to detonate Bobo in Times Square. We will clear off the sidewalks and the streets, because we don't want any collateral damage. We don't want this to be looked at as any kind of terrorist act. This is more of a celebration of blowing up Bobo in Times Square. So we'll make sure that everything is safely done. But we have ordered the dynamite. So,
all right. And to be fair, Bo, you've had to pay this bet off for a couple of years now, so it's been coming. Yeah,
for some reason, I mean, he keeps avoiding this. He's made predictions that the Mets are going to win the World Series the last 3 years, and I've said, if they don't, can we blow you up in Times Square? He said yes. I don't know why he won't follow through on the bet, honestly. But this time he promises he's going to be following through, and we will detonate him. And I'm thinking maybe we just replace the big silver ball on New Year's Eve, and we suspend Bobo in the air. And on, once it hits midnight on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, we blow him up. I think that would be fun for everyone.
I love that idea. I feel like it's festive. and especially if he's wearing, his Rangers or Mets jersey.
Yeah. But he's gonna wear that, but also those little glasses that say like 2024 on them. He'll wear those up, and then we'll blow him up. In fact, it would be cool if like we could almost have him be like a piñata, and maybe we can like stuff like a bunch of like little wrapped candies into him, and then when we blow him up, like all the candy comes out. That's just an idea. I just thought of that right now.
I love it. Bo, what do you think? Are you pumped for that, or?
Well, I personally recommend Snickers bars for that.
Snickers bars, okay.
Bars, not the mini bars.
Okay, so he doesn't have an issue with getting blown up. It's more of the candy.
Just the candy. That makes sense.
He has an issue with the candy selection, not being murdered in New York. So, okay. I will make sure to get lots of those little. Are we talking bite-sized, or are you going to get the big ones? How are we going to get the Snickers, the bite-sized Snickers? Let's go with the bite-sized
Dave, you got to go big. You got to
go.
And then maybe have some people throw full-size candy bars.
All right, fair enough. Well, it looks like his thing is screwing up a little bit right there. He just got kicked out again. But Dave, real quick before we let you go, because I'm sure he'll pop back in a second. I do want to show you this though. I'm sure you've seen it already. But the other night, I know you're a big wrestling fan.
Yes.
The other night they debuted the new championship belt for the WWE for Monday Night Raw.
I like it.
It's got a pretty nice look, right? Kind of old school feel to it.
Yes, I like it. I've had a major issue with the belts in previous years. There's simply no gold on it. I hate the how much space first of all, the universal belts always looked awful. Whether it was the blue strap or the red strap, I could care less what color the strap is. It looks very garbagey. Secondly, you gotta have gold on your championship belt, and like all that dead space and just a little smallish. It's not even a lot of gold. It was just like a little outline of gold with some diamonds in. No, it was, to me, cheap looking. This belt's got the gold. This belt's got that old school NWA, lots and lots of gold look to it. I actually think this is a handsome belt.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They had, it's kind of like, like you said, like that old big gold Ric Flair championship feel to it. And it just, I'm still, my championship that I love is the that Winged Eagle Hulk Hogan championship belt. But so I'm still getting used to the big W in the middle of the championship. But I still think aesthetically it looks really nice.
It's a lot better than all that, basically nothing, and then just a little thin, slightly gold and silver W. At least I'm looking at lots and lots of gold, and then the W is in, looks like to be in silver. But it's better than the red straps and the blue straps or whatever the hell that is. That looks terrible.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Well, Dave, we've kept you already for too long. I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank
everybody, do yourself a favor. Subscribe, patreon.com/EastsideDave. Check out the Davey Mac Sports Program. Check him out on WRAT. Listen to Yaddle Chattel. Also, don't forget his great podcast with his son, the Eastside Dave and Son Wrestling Show, as they, will give frequent podcasts about the big upcoming wrestling shows. So do yourself a favor and check that out too. Very entertaining stuff, Dave.
Thank you. Yeah, we have the Eastside Empire, all kinds of podcasts, all kinds of things. You ever want to, if you get a little confused, EastsideDaveCountry.com is my website, and everything is posted there as well. But having a lot of fun these days. We just, I don't know if you know, we just got a brand new live venue for the Davey Mac Sports Program, the Dojo of Comedy in Morris Plains, New Jersey. We just recorded our first episode. No audience, but it's still live on stage. For the next few weeks, maybe several weeks, we're going to be doing these shows with no audience. But with the end goal to be at some point, we will open it up and bring people in, allow people to come to the shows. But we're all back in one room. Roy's keyboards are back. The music is back. It's a really cool spot, a really cool place, and we're very excited for the Davey Mac Sports program going forward. So make sure you're subscribing and liking on iTunes or Spotify or Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Make sure you check it out.
Absolutely. Check Dave out. And, you know, I was supposed to mention that at the top of the show. I forgot, though.
That's all right.
Love seeing you guys together again in the same place. The Dojo of Comedy, absolutely awesome seeing you guys together. I always loved the party atmosphere that you guys had when in the old Davey Mac Sports program and the Compound Media version of the show. So it's great to see it get that party feel to it again.
Yeah, we're gonna bring the ruckus, bring the fun, bring the passion, the fire, and we're off to a good start. We're already having a lot of fun.
It's great to see. And hey, Dan, before we get out of here, anything to plug? Oh, are you muted, buddy?
He muted himself.
Dan, you
Hold
muted?
on, I just fixed it. I was having technical difficulties. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi in this house.
No problem, buddy.
The Wi-Fi in this house gets spotty at certain times of day because they do their Spectrum does their maintenance work at times during the afternoon.
We get it, man. So you have anything you'd like to plug?
Sure, I want to plug my Twitter feed. It's Bobo103NYC. Instagram, Bobo718DK. Daniel Curlin, one word on YouTube when I upload some YouTube stuff. Also, since today there was a little bit of a sort of breaking news that I noticed on social media before the show. I always check my social media shows to make feeds to make sure we got the most up-to-date news in the world of New York sports. I saw someone mention that a news feed mentioned that Jerry Springer passed away. We all remember at times when we had off from school watching Jerry Springer, and we all remember those great VHS tapes.
Oh my God, this is horrible. Did you know? I'm very surprised. I didn't hear about that Jerry Springer died.
Yeah, it's breaking news. Also,
how did he die? He got shot or something?
No, they just said he died in his own home. They hadn't had the
Oh my God, you heard it here first on Best Seats in the House. Bobo just announces Jerry Springer shot and murdered in Dallas, Texas, right as he was driving in his Cadillac. Oh my God, Jerry Springer dead at the age of 45. Lyndon Johnson will be sworn in. Holy cow.
Well, you heard it here first, everybody.
I do got to share some funny memories about the show. I myself, once they moved the tapings of their show from Chicago to nearby Stamford, Connecticut, it was a short walk from the Metro North station. I went to see a couple of tapings of the show, and one of those tapings, I even got hit by a flying hairweed. I was also gifted by one of the security guards a replica of the very shirts that the security guards wear, which is a real cool shirt. I still saved it. Also, since in memory of Jerry Springer, I feel there's only one way to close this episode of the show. As the late Jerry Springer would say at the end of his shows, take care of yourself and each other.
Oh,
there we go.
I didn't know that Jerry Springer was that deep.
Yeah, he had that little closing statement at the end of his show after all the debauchery that you see for the last hour.
Yeah, it would be like as if Gandhi hosted a show of trailer trash people beating each other up for an hour, and then was just like, "Hey, be good though."
Exactly.
But by the way, my favorite episode of the show to rewatch is the Little People episode. That one was such a fun watch.
It sounds like you and Vince McMahon have something in common. Well, then I can't think of a better way to end the episode than that. Dave, can't thank you enough for joining us.
Hey, hope you guys like that little Eastside Dave clip. That was words cannot express how exciting it was to have Eastside Dave on the show. Every time I've been on the show, it's always been full of fun memories from all the various shows Dave has been a part of over the years. Always a great time. Our next clip comes from at a time when during the summer leading up to the football season, when we thought there was going to be great seasons for both our local football teams. Ladies and gentlemen, our next clip is when we had Jake Asman as part of our football preview show.
And of course, today our special guest, the great Jake Asman from ESPN Radio. Jake, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to get started here.
Absolutely. And before we really jump into it, Jake, though, this isn't the first time we've talked in the last week, because I had this queued up. I wanted to show you. If you probably don't remember because you took a million calls, but right before you took Nick Mangold last week, you actually spoke to someone that might sound a little familiar right now, Rob from Levittown.
3776. Let's go to Rob in Levittown. Rob, you're excited for Hard Knocks, I'm hoping, right, Rob?
Hey, Jake. First off, I just got to say it's great to hear you on the radio here in New York. I'm a big fan of your YouTube content.
Thank you.
But, yeah, I am absolutely psyched for this Hard Knocks.
That's awesome.
I just wanted to get a little taste there, but
I appreciate you calling in, Rob. That means a lot, and thanks for the kind words and for being part of that show. I got some news I could share with you. Next 1 week from today, next Saturday, I'll be back on 98.7 in New York from 3 to 7. So you got to call back in again. I'm sure we'll talk plenty of Jets that day too.
Absolutely, man. Especially as we're getting closer to this Hard Knocks thing. But before we even get into that, Jake, you being a diehard Jet fan as you are, it must have been surreal earlier this offseason when, as you mentioned on your show, in a span of 48 hours, you had Joe Klecko, Darrelle Revis, both going into the Hall of Fame this year on your show. And then you got that little controversy that came out of it where Revis kind of went crazy on Twitter. Man, that must have been a surreal moment for you.
It really was. And, I've been involved in some interviews that have, gotten some attention, some headlines and whatnot. But typically you kind of know, when you're doing it, what question to ask that will create the controversy or create the headline. And what was so fascinating about the Klecko Revis stuff is the question I asked Klecko that set Revis off was, how cool is it to be going into the Hall of Fame basically with another all-time great Jet? And we didn't know, obviously, the backstory that, Revis was annoyed at something Klecko, I think jokingly said when they were finding out back in January they were going into the Hall together. So it was just very odd because typically, when you have a question, you ask a guest, hey, that might be something that an outlet will pick up, or no one knew that story before. Maybe there'll be some media that covers that. But the fact that it played out the way it did, I got done with the Klecko interview, and I thought nothing of that interview, that it would lead to everything it did. And ultimately, we got Darrelle on the show, as you said, 48 hours later. So it was a wild time. I'm glad we had both on. And 2 weeks from tonight is the Hall of Fame ceremony in Canton. So I'll be there, and I can't wait to see both of them again in person.
Yeah, that really was so cool to see, and definitely, as you just said too, it's going to be even cooler going in there. And 2 weeks from tonight, the Jets are in the Hall of Fame game. They got the Hall of Fame ceremony, so it really is going to be awesome. And and you put your stamp on there, man. So you're getting up there. You're the Jets' go-to YouTube guy, Jake. I hope you know that.
I appreciate it. The one thing I try to do on my show is I'm a radio guy, right? I don't know how to really do the cool YouTube video edits and all the different things like that. So I just try and treat the Jet show every day. It's it's a Jet talk show. I'll come on whatever the topic of the day is, and then we'll open it up to calls, texts. The comments are kind of like a text line or tweets, and the video call line, that's like taking a call on radio, like you did when you called in last week to 98.7. So I appreciate the kind words, man. And it's never been a better time than right now to actually be a Jet fan. So it's very exciting with the season coming up.
No doubt about it. We always said too that it's going to pay off. Our diehard, Jet fandom is going to pay off one day. It may take a long time, but when they finally do win and everything clicks, it's definitely going to be awesome. But
No doubt.
yeah, earlier this week the Jets reported for training camp, and the Giants, as we'll get to in a minute, as my buddy is a diehard Giant fan, they report next week. What are your first impressions of these first couple of days of training camp? I know one thing that jumped off the page to me was Michael Clemens walking in with, shirtless with the bat wrapped in barbed wire. That was an awesome scene.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I guess what has really stood out is that, like, holy crap, like Aaron Rodgers is actually a Jet. Like, you're seeing him take the field earlier in front of fans, and it's like, the king has arrived with the ovation he's getting from the Jet fans at the first practice that's open for fans today. It really is surreal. And, I guess the big takeaway is, as far as like on-field stuff, Mekhi Becton's healthy and he's practicing, and they're going to legitimately give him a chance to get left tackle reps, and we'll see what happens. Dwayne Brown, after missing the first couple of days due to personal reasons, he's now back. So, the left tackle competition is going to get underway. And I guess some of the other takeaways, Jermaine Johnson changed his number. Now that Denzel Mims is gone, back to number 11. They're listing him as a linebacker now. So we'll see how that impacts what they want to do defensively. So it's only been a couple days, but there's already a bunch of different things, if you're a Jet fan, you're paying close attention to.
Wow, I thought I'd been pretty locked in too, but I didn't notice that Jermaine Johnson went from 52 to 11. That's that's pretty cool. I like that. That's I like to, back in the day, you wouldn't really see, a lot of defensive players taking numbers like that. Even Sauce having number 1 isn't something you would have really seen that much back in the day. It's kind of cool that they're letting it's a little bit more free with letting the players pick whichever number they like.
It's like college, right? I mean, you have Adrian Amos, who's coming over from Green Bay, now wearing 0. He's the first 0 in Jets history. It's a lot different. The days of being able to like identify, a player's position by their number, those days are over.
Yeah, you're right about that. And speaking of numbers, the one that we all weren't sure which number he was going to take was Aaron Rodgers, obviously, and he comes here. He's wearing number 8. It looks amazing, as crazy as it is to see him running out there, in green and white, or red too, as the non-contact jersey with number 8 on. What do you think? It came out earlier this week. Rodgers and Saleh both indicated that this is probably more than a 1-year relationship for them. What do you think of that? And does, if they win a Super Bowl at the end of this year, impact that too?
Well, it's interesting because when Rodgers talked about this recently, yesterday, I think he was on DiPietro and Rothenberg on 98.7. He said it'd be a disservice to the Jets if I just played 1 year. And then he's like, well, if we have a magical year, maybe something like that could change. So, yeah, they win the Super Bowl. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He wants to retire. Like, whatever you want to do, Aaron. If you win it all year 1 with this team, every Jet fan will totally understand. That being said, even if they do win it all, I still think there's a chance he would want to come back. He'd be having so much fun. And what's better than winning 1 with the Jets? How about 2? Like, Tom Brady won the Super Bowl year 1 in Tampa. He played another 2 years after that. So I've always felt like he's going to be a Jet for at least 2 seasons. So I'm not surprised Saleh said what he said. I think when we see the reworked contract as well, whenever they announce that officially, I think it's going to be overwhelmingly obvious. It's structured like it's going to be maybe a 2 or 3 year commitment. So I'm not surprised, but still, it is surreal as a Jet fan hearing this guy talk about playing for your team. He wants to be here, and he thinks he could play for plenty more years. And I think if you're a Jet fan, the goal is to win it all during this time that he's here. And knowing that, hey, it doesn't necessarily need to be just one and done this year, I think that's exciting if you're a fan of this team.
Yeah, I totally agree. It at least gives us a window, that 1 year, that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. And I really, even though obviously the ultimate goal of this season is to win a Super Bowl no matter what, you wouldn't go out and get Aaron Rodgers if it wasn't. But, from listening to your show and everything, I couldn't agree more with what you've been saying. Like, look, let's win the division. Let's win a playoff game, and then let's judge where the season stands at that point. Who knows if the Jets run into the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and lose by a field goal, is it going to be disappointing extremely? But can you sit here and say the season was a failure? You can't do that.
Absolutely. I mean, this team hasn't been to the playoffs in 13 years, right? Like the idea that, they don't win the Super Bowl in year one with Rodgers, it's some sort of epic failure. No, it's just the media or other fans trying to move the goalposts. Remember, it went from, well, Rodgers would never want to come play for the Jets to, well, now they don't win the Super Bowl in year one, it's a failure. Are you kidding me? This team hasn't made the playoffs since 2010. It's not a failure. It's a failure if they miss the playoffs. It's extremely disappointing if they, make the playoffs as a 7 seed and they're eliminated in the wild card round. That's disappointing given the expectations. But the idea that they could lose in the championship game to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and it's some sort of epic failure, how many teams would kill to go to the AFC championship game? Believe me, we would kill for that as Jet fans. So I completely agree with you, Rob. This is, the goal is ultimately to win the Super Bowl, but there's steps along the way. And if you're a Jet fan and can't enjoy the ride as you're hopefully on this magic ride, then why are you a fan in the first place?
Yeah. It's it's just funny too how you mentioned moving the goalposts. I remember driving into work, on the air. I want to say sometime around February, and you hear Tiki Barber at the time talking about how he doesn't think Aaron Rodgers wants to be a Jet and he's going to be a distraction and this and that. And then it just turned into as the clip that I always hear and crack up at when you put people in the shadow realm. You hear Tiki Barber talking about how he thinks that, what's his name? Who's the Giants quarterback again? Daniel Jones is gonna have the a better season than Rodgers. And I don't want to take anything away from Daniel Jones, but I mean Aaron Rodgers is kind of in a league of his own.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a silly comment. Like, Daniel Jones had a nice season last year. He threw 15 touchdowns. You want to count his rushing touchdowns? All right, would it be an extra 7? So he threw 22 or total 22 touchdowns. Nice year. Giants made the playoffs, won a playoff game. They were a big surprise. But it's like not even worth addressing to try and compare the two. Like, it's just silly. Like, there's no reason for me to dunk on Daniel Jones. Like, anyone with common sense who's not looking for a trolling hot take there would tell you, it's Aaron Rodgers. Like, enough said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And just to we were mentioning Saleh before. What do you think about Coach Saleh? I'm a big fan of his. I think most Jet fans are pretty optimistic about what we have in Saleh. Obviously, people bring up the whole not being able to manage the clock at the end of the game thing. I really only remember that popping up in the Detroit game last year, where it was really it really came and affected the Jets in a negative way. I would love to see Saleh be the guy and stay here and knock Rex off the pedestal of the longest tenured Jets coach of the last 20-25 years. What are your impressions of Saleh so far?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I like him as a person. I really think he's a good, genuinely good dude. I think players play for him. I think he deserves a lot of credit for Rodgers being here and the type of program he built, and the positive reviews from players that were here, what they have said about Saleh, that enticed Aaron Rodgers to want to come here. He hired Nathaniel Hackett, which is a major reason why Aaron Rodgers chose to come here. I don't think the team has ever quit on Saleh. I think last year would have been very easy for that defense to give up, given how inept the offense was for most of the season. So I think he's a good coach. Now, it's tough to win when you don't have a quarterback, so that excuse is now gone. He's now 3 years in. It's a big year. I think he's a guy that could take this team to the playoffs, and we'll find out what type of coach he is. But now we could accurately evaluate him. Robert Saleh won 11 games to his first 2 years. Kyle Shanahan only won 10, right? Like, it is hard to win without a quarterback. And now they have Aaron Rodgers. So the excuses are done. The defense went from 32nd in year one, the top 5 last year. Now you got the offense seemingly figured out with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. So we're going to find out right away if he's the right coach. But I think all the ingredients are there as far as players playing for him, wanting to be a Jet. He's done a lot of good things, but now he's got to translate the wins at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And, it seems to me like he's a leader of men. And, when you get the respect of guys like Aaron Rodgers, just from afar, even before he joined the team, he mentioned his respect of Coach Saleh. So I think that goes a long way, too.
No question. And ultimately, they got to win. I mean, that's what it's all about at this point. They have the team in place, and we're going to judge them based on the win-loss record now going forward.
Absolutely, man. And, you mentioned the quarterback that, unfortunately, we were forced to watch a lot of last year. 9 starts out of Zach Wilson. 5-4, as the truthers will tell you. But I think we all know there's a deeper level we can look at in that 5-4 record. And Zach Wilson should have been buying a lot of dinners for those defensive players throughout the season for bailing his butt out of a lot of those games. But what do you think? Is Zach Wilson repairable at all, or is he just going to go down in the list of Jet bust first-round picks?
I have serious doubts he's ever going to be what they thought he was. Now, could he salvage his career and be a long-term backup in the league? Maybe a fringe starter somewhere down the line. Maybe. I never saw Geno Smith 8 years after he left the Jets turning out to be a solid NFL quarterback like he proved he was last year. It's disappointing because I really like Zach Wilson. I thought he was going to be good. I'd be the first to admit I was wrong. He has been just so bad. It's not defensible. And like the Jets themselves even admitted it publicly, just how bad Wilson was. They didn't even try and sugarcoat it, which is the right approach because it was really, really bad last year. So, the question on the screen is he a bust? Right now, the answer is yes, but that could change over time. But I hope to God that we don't need to find out if he's still a bust this year, right? I hope Aaron Rodgers could play every game, and the only time we see Zach Wilson is either in the preseason or at the end of games that the Jets are up 40 and they're protecting Rodgers, getting him out of the game.
Exactly. Yeah, from your lips to God's ears, Jake. You're right about that, man. Let's make sure that we keep Rodgers in the bubble wrap and until break glass in case of emergency, and then on September 11th, just release that Kraken on the NFL.
Absolutely.
And, so when we keep rolling along here, Jake, talking about the guys that protect the quarterback and obviously Breece Hall coming back too. We're going to need that offensive line to be in tip-top shape. What do you think coming out of training camp we're going to be looking at? Do you expect a guy like Joe Tippmann to win that job? I was listening to Rich Cimini the other day, and he still feels like Connor McGovern is going to be taking that center spot. What do you think about that?
I think Tippmann is going to win the job. I think you take a guy that high in the second round, you had your pick of any center. I think it'd be disappointing if he's not the week one starting center. I think he wins the gig. I think the offensive line, in a perfect world, if you assume you have health, which as Jet fans, we can't assume that ever. But for the sake of this conversation, let's say they have guys healthy for week one. I think left to right would be Dwayne Brown, Laken Tomlinson. Center would be Tippmann, AVT, and then Becton. I think that would be their ideal offensive line for the first game of the year. But injuries play a part in this. But I do think if Joe Tippmann is healthy, he's going to be able to beat out Connor McGovern and be the starting center week one.
I agree, too. And even if it's just the fact that that's the outcome that the Jets coaching staff wants, I could see them wanting to give him that responsibility, just like when they drafted, Zach Wilson a couple of years ago. We heard about the competition in training camp and everything, but we pretty much all knew going in to week one that it was going to be Zach Wilson. And I kind of feel like it's the same thing with Tippmann, too, or at least I hope.
I hope so. Yeah, with Zach, you knew just because, who was the backup, right? We didn't know what Mike White was a couple of years ago, and it was obvious that it was set up for Zach to win. There's a little more of a true competition aspect this time around just because McGovern has been a starter in the NFL for multiple years. He started every game last year. He was the only one on the line that was incredibly durable last year. So I think he deserves credit for that. I think as a backup, he's fine. And the fact that he's played guard before is beneficial. But, in a perfect world, you use a high second-round pick on a center and you had your pick of any center, you want that guy to start for you week one if possible. So I think the Jets' preference is clearly Tippmann wins the job. And if it's close, I think, the benefit of the doubt will go to the rookie.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's like tie goes to the runner, tie goes to the rookie. So
yep.
I'm definitely with you on that. And, as the other big news that came out of training camp right before the guys all reported was that a little thing that was keeping us nervous, keeping Jet fans on the edge of their seat about, conjuring up images of the Roscoe Diner and Darrelle Revis. We finally got it figured out. Quinnen Williams back in the fold, 4 years, $96 million deal. What do you think? I think there's a chance down the line that we can be looking back on this Quinnen deal and be like, this was a complete steal.
You had to pay him, right? I mean, he's coming out of a first-team All-Pro season. He's 25 years old. If you don't pay Quinnen Williams, who do you pay, right? So, yeah, there's always, that, Jet fan PTSD when you give out a big deal to a defensive tackle. I saw Muhammad Wilkerson was at Jet practice yesterday. I'm like, keep him far away from Quinnen Williams. But Look, I mean, it's a no-brainer. I think Quentin Williams has earned the opportunity to be paid like one of the top players at his position because he is. And he's done everything right as far as keeping his mouth shut, letting his performance speak for itself. This is not a Jamal Adams situation from a couple of years ago. And, once again, if you weren't going to pay Q, who are you going to pay? It sends the right message to the rest of the team that, hey, this team drafts you, you play well, they pay you, and ultimately they did the right thing. So does it look like a bargain? Look, if Q keeps going out there and has another year like he had last year, which I think is possible because, once again, he's only 25 years old, we might look back on that contract and be like, wow, that really is a bargain given his production. So it's a no-brainer. And, Quentin Williams is a guy that, should be a Jet for a long time because he's that type of player.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You got to pay Quentin, and we've seen these defensive tackles getting paid all off season, so it was kind of written in stone that he was going to be getting paid, and good for him. Quentin's the type of guy that you want to reward because you see the type of guy he is in the locker room and how coachable he is and how everybody around there just loves the guy. So let's get some good vibes going and pay him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to have guys you want to pay as opposed to in the past. It's like, well, why would we want to extend some of these other first round picks that have been horrific? So it's nice to have that as a Jet fan. There's no doubt.
Exactly. I've got a Jamal Adams jersey sitting in my closet right now, and that's a guy that as soon as they said, the whole Jet for Life thing came out, I was like, oh, I'm getting my Jamal Adams jersey, and I regretted that one. That's another first round pick, but hey, it ended up working out for the best because we ended up getting Garrett Wilson out of it. So I'll take that hit every day of the week.
No doubt. And AVT, if you think about it, because they used the pick in that the first round pick to package that to trade up to go get AVT. So that's one of the best trades the Jets will probably ever make in their franchise's history.
That's true. That's true. And we keep it rolling along here. The last thing I did want to touch on the Jets, and I know, especially on your show, this is something that all Jet fans are constantly talking about. These two guys right on the edge of our tongues, Quan Alexander and Dalvin Cook. What do you think, Jake? I'm kind of losing a little hope in Dalvin Cook. I'm still pretty confident. I think at some point Quan's going to be here. But what do you think? Either of these guys a chance we see them walking into Jets camp?
I agree with you. I think Quan is probably more likely at this point than Dalvin. I still think Dalvin is a possibility, though. The money is clearly not out there for him. And if it's truly about going somewhere where the money's close and it gives him a chance to win, I think the Jets are attractive from that standpoint. Plus, if Breece Hall is going to be worked back into the lineup slowly, which all indications are, they're not just going to give him the ball 20-plus times a game when we start the season. Dalvin Cook can come in here and have an opportunity to be maybe the number one back or featured a lot more than he would if he goes to a different team. So I certainly think he's still in play, pending cost. And Quan, look, he did this last year. He signed with the Jets after training camp got underway. Now the Jets are starting a week earlier than any other team besides Cleveland. So it wouldn't shock me if next week Quan's back with the Jets. So we'll see, but I'm kind of with you. I think Quan more likely, but I don't rule out either one still being a Jet.
Yeah, I think Dalvin Cook would be a real, it would just put a lot of our minds at ease, with Breece Hall, because even though I think Breece is going to come back into form relatively quickly, you just want to make sure that you have every protection in order this year because, we're all in and, we just want to make sure that if one thing goes wrong, it doesn't derail the season.
No doubt. More talent, the better. I mean, we certainly have seen too many injuries for me to sit here and be like, no, we're good. We don't need a good player. Like, no, I'll take everyone who wants to be here because this team can win it all, but injuries wreck seasons, as we know. So more talent, the better.
Exactly. And Dan, too, I want to bring you in, too. Feel free to jump in. We're going to be jumping onto your Giants now, man, as real quick. The Giants start next week, next Wednesday, the 26th. And right now, we were just talking about the holdout that the Jets had to deal with Darrelle Revis in training camp. Now the Giants are going through a holdout. Jake and Dan, what do you guys think? Will Saquon Barkley hold out for this whole season?
I
Jake first.
feel hearing the worst right now. Just everything I'm seeing on Twitter. He removed everything Giants related in his Twitter bio. It just looks like it's gonna be the worst. And I have the question: what do you think the Giants have enough depth at running back to make up for this void that pretty much Saquon Barkley, I fear, is going to be inevitably going to leave because it looks the right wall. It looks.
I don't think he's going to hold out at all. I think he'll play in week 1. He might not be, vintage Saquon right away because he's going to, cut off his nose to spite his face, or he comes back with 2 weeks to go and it's like, well, physically I'm not ready. You can't put me out there. So he still could get his game check for the first week of the season. But I do not think he's going to hold out. I mean, what's the benefit of him holding out? The last guy who actually did that was Le'Veon Bell, and I don't think anyone will ever do that again after how poorly it went for him. Look, Saquon's pissed. I understand that. But ultimately, the Giants did the right thing not giving him a long-term deal. Now, I wonder what he was asking for and what the Giants' final offer was. Until we have that, it's tough to say who's right, who's wrong. But, ultimately, I don't think Saquon Barkley is dumb enough to turn down, $650,000 a week to sit out. He still has a chance to make $10.1 million this year. Plus, as a second overall pick, he got a guaranteed $35 million when he was drafted, which is more than most of these running backs ever make. So I can't sit here and be that upset for Saquon. I don't think he's dumb enough to sit out the whole year. I think he's back and he plays week 1 against the Cowboys.
And then
I agree with you. Yeah, continue, Dan, please.
Another thing I have to say, last year I felt like one of our weaknesses was at wide receivers. Do you think we've filled that hole at wide receivers this year that we were lacking last year?
I think it really depends on what you're going to get from Jalen Hyatt, who I liked a lot. He was a projected first-round guy at the beginning of the draft process, and he was there in the 3rd round. And really, a lot of the receivers I had last year they brought back, but they added Darren Waller. Now he's a tight end, not a receiver, but this guy, when he's healthy, and that's obviously the major question with him, he's as good as any tight end in the league as far as like his production. If you look at some of his all-pro level seasons, so I think he's the key to the offense. If Darren Waller can stay healthy, I think that's an absolute steal. The Giants got they traded a 3rd round pick to get him. So I think it comes down to that. Can Darren Waller bounce back, stay healthy, and then I think there's another level to this offense. And Daniel Jones had a nice year last year. It was a nice year because it was so unexpected. Now he's being paid $40 million a year. Year 2 in Daboll's offense. You're saying we think there's another level this guy could get to as a quarterback. We got to see it. Last year was a big surprise, but if Daniel Jones replicates the exact same season from a year ago, that's not going to be good enough for this team. So he's now got to take another step forward, and as you see on the screen there, be one of the driving forces of this offense. And I question whether or not he could do it. I don't rule it out. He's certainly talented. He works hard. Daboll's a great coach, but that's really the next step for the Giants to get to, because if he can't, well, then in 2 years, you're going to be looking to replace him because you're only going to be able to go so far without the guy that could elevate your team to the next level.
Yeah, it's true, man. And I really think, too, that, we are really going to see the focus come on Daniel Jones this year without having Saquon Barkley being there to take a lot of that pressure off of him. So it's really going to come down to, the Giants' offensive line giving Daniel Jones as much time as he possibly can and just getting that the chemistry with this receiver group too. They have a lot of bodies in there. I mean, I don't know how much better their wide receiver room is than it is last year, but it's definitely got a lot of people in it. And I mean, I don't even know if you saw this, Dan, but the Giants signed actually former Jet James Robinson to help out, I guess fill in for Saquon, but also former Cowboy and Bill Cole Beasley. What do you guys think about that? About those signings?
I think Beasley actually could help, but as a Jet fan watching James Robinson last year, nice guy, still young, but he has not recovered from that Achilles injury, and maybe another year away from that, his explosiveness will return. But that to me was like a nothing burger until I see otherwise. But Cole Beasley's productive, man. Everywhere this guy's been, he gets on the field, he'll still make big plays. So I like that signing for the Giants.
Yeah, me too. What do you think, Dan?
I'm excited about that. I feel that just gives us a nice step at wide receiver. I'm excited to see what this guy could bring. I'm probably going to be looking at a little preseason a little more closely than I usually do this year because of everything going into the season. It's usually not easy to watch preseason because I just feel like most of the time you don't really see much of the big stars how they're faring. It's really mostly just the backups. It's like the point that I just said. I don't think I've ever in my life purchased a ticket to a preseason game. only time I went to a preseason game, it was when they were doing like a big at Bryant Park. They were giving out tick. They were giving out tick. There was like the whole big announcing naming rights to the stadium, MetLife Stadium, right? They were giving out tickets to the preseason game. Giants and Jets. I went, but I've literally never actually actively gone on StubHub and purchased tickets to a preseason game. But this is gonna be a very interesting going into. Also, I have to ask a question. How do you feel about the Giants their defense this year? Because it felt like we really got exposed how bad our defense was against maybe one of the toughest offenses the Eagles last year during the playoffs.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Eagles did that to a lot of teams, though. To be fair, right? I mean, they were incredible last year offensively. I still think they're the favorites in the NFC. Like, I think the Giants, you know, they're trying to improve, and maybe if Kayvon Thibodeau is better now in year 2, and you get more out of some of the younger players on this team, that as they continue to develop, the defense could be better. But this team probably should be led by their offense, if we're being honest. Like, you're paying the quarterback once again $40 million, so the defense is certainly a part of it. But if the offense doesn't take a bigger step, I don't know how much better the Giants could be, even if their defense improves.
Yeah, very true, very true. And I think you mentioned Kayvon Thibodeau. I think he's a big factor for the Giants this season to see if he could take that next step to becoming the elite pass rusher that everybody thought. We saw a lot of flashes of that last year, and it'd be nice to see if he can sustain that for a full season this year. And so last two things before we let you go, Jake, and thank you so much for taking the time with us this morning. I did want to touch on, this is a thought that had occurred to me the other day, especially what's going on with the Mets and the Yankees and, our hockey teams and everything. Is Brian Daboll the best coach or manager that we have in New York right now? What do you guys think?
I think by default, he kind of is, right? I mean, who would you rank higher right now? You wouldn't rank either baseball manager.
Nope.
Look, I think Tom Thibodeau is a good coach, but I don't think he's better than what Daboll showed you last year. I'm trying to think, Robert Saleh, I like him, but he's an unknown at this point. Jock Vaughn with the Nets, I don't know if we can really count him. Trying to think, the hockey coaches, there's no way. Lane Lambert with the Islanders, the Rangers have a or they have a not a first-time head coach, but they have a new head coach in Peter Laviolette. So I'm trying to think, the Devils coach, right? Well, John Hines is the guy's name, or John Hines. So maybe he'd be in the conversation. But if you kind of run through the New York teams, I think it has to be Daboll by default.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And actually, no, the Devils coach is Lindy Ruff now.
Right.
Yeah, John Hine was the old guy. But yeah, you're right about that. And even though I like Lindy Ruff, and he's got an incredible amount of wins as a hockey coach, I'd still take Daboll over him because from what we saw to Daboll last year, the turnaround that he did with this Giants team, I don't think anybody else, including what Buck did last year with the Mets, stands a chance to what Daboll did last year. What do you think, Dan?
I think so too. He turned around a team that was just, I guess, the equivalent of a comedian bombing hard in a huge stretch of several shows. He turned his team around, and they won a playoff game against a team they were the heavily underdogs against.
That's a big thing too. You're right that the Giants actually won a playoff game last year, which even though the Mets won a playoff game too, they weren't advancing to the next round. So and and then obviously the Yankees got in the ALCS and ran into the brick wall that is the Houston Astros. So So definitely Brian Daboll is top of the mountain right now. And last thing before we let you get out of here, Jake, I was a big fan of that old show on SNY, Loudmouths, and they always would do the segment buy or sell. So buy or sell, both you guys this year, Jets and Giants both make the playoffs. What do you guys think?
I'm buying it. It's July 22nd. I'm going to be optimistic on this fine Saturday morning. So I'm buying it. Jets and Giants are both in the playoffs.
Boom. Jake's in for both. What do you think, Dan?
I think the same thing. I'm buying on this one. Both teams are going to make the playoffs. I think I'm not going to say go book your trip to Las Vegas, but I'm going to say you might want to have your computer, eyeing it, just, preparing, not guaranteed, but just, just constantly checking the prices on flights or probably bus trips because right off the back all flights from if possible happened, all flights from New York to Las Vegas would be sold out in seconds. So you'd be eyeing you're looking at travel options about how you're going to get to Las Vegas, but you're not going to right away just click the buy option on that trip. But you're gonna be constantly monitoring the prices, being ready.
Man,
But
so you, my friend, are eyeing a Subway Super Bowl. Okay, okay. I'll tell you this much, Dan. I'm gonna be. I agree with you guys. I'm buying it. I think the Jets and the Giants are both gonna make the playoffs. But I don't want to see you guys in the Super Bowl if the Jets make it. Because if the Jets make it, I just want the city to myself. Let's be honest.
Agreed.
So, all right, boys. Yeah, I think that's just about gonna do it for us today. Jake, I can't thank you enough for taking the time with us this morning. This has been phenomenal. It's great talking to you. It's like getting my own personal Jake Asman show. So, so I can't thank you enough for spending the time with us. Jake, before we close it out, do you have anything that you'd like to plug?
Sure. Just check out the YouTube channel. Just search Jake Asman if you like the Jets. You'll find daily content there. I appreciate you guys having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. And make sure subscribe to Jake on Patreon. Great content on there. And if you're a Jets fan like me and you're going to Las Vegas, do yourself a favor. Stay at the Circa out there. Use Jake's code Jake15, and we're going to have a blast out there, Jake. I can't wait to get out there with you guys. It's going to be so much fun.
Rob, I can't wait, man. I didn't even realize that you were staying at Circa, so that's awesome, man. I don't know if you've ever been, but I promise you it's going to be an incredible weekend. So looking forward to meeting you in person.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. And Dan, before we get out of here, any plugs for yourself as well?
sure, we got my plugs: Bobo103NYC on Twitter and a Bobo718DK on Instagram. Daniel Curlin on YouTube for all my little content, some little funny videos. I'm even in the works of probably putting together a funny sketch with integrating Robert into one of these sketches because I filmed a sketch on YouTube that won a sketch competition on the Eastside Dave show, and they thought it was just I was rewatching, and I gotta make another one.
Very special thanks to Jake Asman for doing our show. Was such an honor to have someone who's a part of one of the biggest sports podcasts out there. Our next clip is from when around the time it was speculating that Aaron Rodgers was going to be coming to the Jets. That trade hadn't been made yet, but we had a little fun commenting on learning about Aaron Rodgers going on his little darkness retreat. Hope you guys enjoy this clip. This one was definitely made me laugh.
Aaron Rodgers now is in his darkness retreat. I believe that started today. Now, Aaron Rodgers got very angry at Ian Rappaport yesterday for suggesting that his darkness retreat started yesterday, and I guess it started today. But I did want to check in, Dan, because believe it or not, we have inside information of Aaron Rodgers at his darkness retreat right now. We actually have a camera in there right now. We're going to take a peek, and let's see how that looks right now.
Sure is spooky out here. Probably just a dog. Kitty. headlight glasses.
And that my friends wraps up another great year of Robert Kramer and I doing Best Seat in the House podcast. We hope you all had a great 2023, even though not really no New York teams won a championship. And here's to a better year. Here's to a better year in 2024. And I beg you, Mets, give me a championship for once. I don't ask for much. I just want to see the Mets win the World Series. Also, to all of you watching this, have a very happy and healthy and safe new year. Much love to all of you. We'll see you all in 2024. This has been the Best of Best Seat in the House podcast, Best of 2023.